tuned in to the Supreme Poobah.
And the Enchantress Divine Ruby Craft.
And this is
the Dub Tape Podcast.
Welcome back to the Grand Imperial Dub Tape Podcast. As we stated earlier, I am your host, the Supreme Poobah, and I am being accompanied by
the Enchantress Divine Ruby Craft.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you all had a good weekend. Well, a good week, a good month. A lot going on. We're winding down to the end. This is we're in July still, and then we got one more month. That's August before we get back into my favorite time of year, which is the fall. Right? The fall? Am I right? The fall starts in September or October? October.
September.
It is September. Okay. I just, without school, these things mean nothing to me. So I don't keep up with all of that kind of stuff outside of that. But somebody celebrated a birthday recently, and I'm gonna go live on air and say happy birthday to the Enchantress Divine Ruby Craft. Everybody give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
How was it? What'd you end up doing?
Well, I'm petty, so I don't work.
Petty.
I don't work on my birthday.
It's a holiday.
Or the week after.
Oh, well, you might be pushing it a little bit there. I mean, this is July. So.
Listen. First of all,
we roll off of Juneteenth.
I got paid vacation, so.
Oh, well, shit. Fuck them.
Shit.
Right where they breathe. Fuck
them. So last week, the theme was get somebody else to do it. Because it wasn't going to be me.
Right. I hear that.
But no, I had a very good time. I went to the beach twice. I got a new tattoo. I hung out with some family. Went to like 2 parties there. So I had a good time. I had a very good time. I'm very relaxed.
That's good. Because in today's economy, it costs to have a good time. And being that you're able to do that with family and friends, yeah, kudos to you.
And you don't necessarily need to go anywhere to be on vacation from work. Like, just not going equals vacation.
I like to call those daycations.
Exactly.
Because I will take a day in a heartbeat, and I'll be sitting at the diner with a newspaper and a cup of coffee. Like, this is a daycation. I just don't want to see people that I work with.
Yep.
You take off the monkey suit and you just forget about it. At least for that one day. You get crafty. When we started getting crafty, we started taking off those Fridays, try to turn it into this 3-day.
Yep.
They swapped it around on you. We're just like, you can't take off Friday. It's our busiest day. You get there, don't shit be going on.
No. I have one coworker. She's been with the company long enough that during the summer she doesn't work any Fridays at all.
Nice.
Fridays. And then my other coworker, she takes off every other Friday, and then for every Friday she don't take off, she take off that Monday.
Must be nice. I know, and shouts to people. My buddy was giving me the story. You can look it up if you want. He works for a cable company down in the South, and he was briefing me on a situation where young lady was requesting off, and I guess she was just new, like she was a new hire or what have you, and they gave her some shit and was just kind of like, take the day and you're fired. And, she took the day. I guess she had to take it, whatever the case was, and they fired her. So she came back and blew the fucking doors off and held people hostage.
Well.
And I said, well, that's one way of settling your grievance.
Right.
We
do not encourage
grievance.
Such behavior at the Dub Tape Podcast, please.
Speak for yourself. It is sad because I'm glad nobody got hurt, and I'm glad it, de-escalated the way it did with nobody getting physically hurt. There's probably some mental trauma going on with some of the people, but how do I say it? I believe things like that need to happen to wake corporate America up. Because I told my buddy, I said, I guarantee you guys got all the mental health days you want now, at least for this month,
right?
Or for the rest of the year,
right?
And who knows what that girl needed or what was going through,
Right. And actually, my company just changed the policy, so Those of us who were already here, we have a set amount of time that we get off.
Mm-hmm.
But the new people that are coming in, they don't have a set amount of time. You just take it as you need it.
Right.
And nobody's really going to say anything. So I'm like, dang, yo, like I only get 3 weeks, but somebody walk in off the street and they got unlimited time off. Like, what the hell is that?
And
But
that's how they do.
they still have to meet
A certain
the full-time schedule though.
Right. Well, as always here on the Dub Tape Podcast, we are very human and we don't condone violence, but we definitely understand it. So with that being said, we were talking earlier about how this show is going to go. And ladies and gentlemen, I am going to take the back seat because today is going to be the Ruby Craft show. And I'm going to let you know, man, we've been talking about this probably for as long as I've known her. And she always has an interesting perspective of how she grew up. If you've been paying attention to the podcast, she's always mentioning her upbringing, strict upbringing and things like that. And today she's going to let us know just exactly what that was and what that entails and what religion was not sprung on her, but that she came up in that kind of gave that strict upbringing, good and bad, and what she likes to call this episode the Cult of Jehovah. Sorry.
That's a new one. I wasn't ready for that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got all types of tricks up my sleeve. I will be asking questions, but the floor is yours, my dear. The floor is yours.
Okay. So I have mentioned before that as far as my upbringing is concerned, like I wasn't allowed to watch certain movies. I think I explained during the movie episode, I couldn't watch PG-13 movies until I was, 16? And
crazy.
So, and right.
You missed out on so much.
I missed out on a lot. I missed out on a lot. And not only that, so not every Jehovah's Witness is the same. So that's one thing that you
Okay.
So because I have other friends that were Jehovah's Witnesses, they were allowed to watch Moesha and they were allowed to watch Martin and they was allowed to watch
Man, Moesha came on first though. You must have really wanted to watch Moesha.
Right. And I couldn't because my mother was like
Fredro Starr.
my mom was like, well, the other brothers and sisters are talking about it. They're saying that it has adult situations and so and you know their whole thing is like to shelter you from all of that. So that you don't want to do all of the things other people did.
You don't lose your way.
Right. So you don't lose your way. So, and the same thing was applied with the friends that I was allowed to have. So basically, if you wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, I wasn't allowed to be your friend. So all of my friendships were basically in school and it didn't venture anything out of that. Like I couldn't give nobody my phone number if you wasn't a Jehovah's Witness. None of that. If I asked to go to a friend's house, the first thing they said to me is, well, what does the Bible say? And of course,
what does the Bible say about going to what does it say?
So basically, you know, again, because anybody that wasn't a Jehovah's Witness was considered bad association. So I had to recite 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 33.
Let me tell you something. I love the way she rifles off these Bible passages because it's like
it's only that one.
Nah, it's been a couple. We've had many a conversation outside of this podcast, and you run that shit off like Samuel Jackson in Pulp Fiction when he right before he kills someone. Ezekiel 2013, whatever it was, and it was like, which wasn't a real passage, by the way, but the way you rifle it off, I'm just like, yo, that's the branding of your upbringing because
right, it is
runs it off like
it is because. And I had to say, I'm like, well, it says, do not be misled. Bad association spoils useful habits. So, and that was the premise of everything. So, yeah. So I very quickly learned just to spit out what everybody wanted to hear and then go to school and do whatever the hell I wanted.
I mean, and I know a lot of people that kind of, it's kind of like, it sounds to me, I could compare this to like, some people who would like go to school in a certain set of clothes.
Oh, yeah.
And then they would like switch out
Yep.
before they get there.
Yep.
And they kind of,
so
there's too much going on with that. But I understand, that's how I understand that part of the upbringing.
It's absolutely like that. And so the problem with that was like I couldn't really do that because my parents always picked me up from school. So it wasn't really none of that. I tried it though. I tried it in private school because we had to wear skirts.
Hey.
So so one day we went on a field trip and I caught myself trying to be like everybody else, rolled up my skirt. But what I wasn't ready for was my mother was like right there at the bus watching everybody get off. And I got in so much trouble. So you rolled the
skirt up to make it like shorter?
Yeah.
Like, just to make it shorter?
Yeah, and not even that, because when my mom bought the skirt, my skirt fell like down to my calves. So I just rolled it up just to be above the knee. And my mother was like,
your little fast ass.
Yup, exactly. Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how much trouble I was in.
Just because God damn. Okay, I'm listening. I'm not going to interrupt.
Okay. So, but yeah, so basically it is like changing your set of clothes or whatever. Now, the tricky part was we went to school with other Jehovah's Witnesses. You remember?
Oh yeah.
So, thankfully we weren't in the same congregation, and I kind of kept my distance between them. So did they
know? I'm sorry to cut you off, but did they know that you were a Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah, we used to go to each other's congregations and stuff.
Because you said you wasn't a part of the congregation, so what does that mean exactly? Like,
so all right, so Jehovah's Witnesses, just like the Baptist Church, has many different congregations all over the place. Okay, so it's the same concept with Jehovah's Witnesses. So Jehovah's Witnesses, they go to the Kingdom Hall,
right?
And there are Kingdom Halls everywhere. So, and you go to the Kingdom Hall based on where you live.
Right.
So we went to one congregation, and then one of the other girls in school, they went to another congregation, and it just so happens that her congregation shared, or the building that her congregation was in, shared that building with another congregation that spoke French, which was the other girl that was in our school. Okay. And so they were everywhere.
Sound like the League of Assassins.
Right. It was literally everywhere. So, but I hung out with them when convenient or necessary. And for the rest of the time I did my own thing. So they really couldn't say too much or whatever. Or they'd be like, oh, Ruby, you can't do this, or, oh, Ruby, you can't do that. And I'm like, go mind your business. Leave me alone. But eventually they
probably, them amongst themselves probably had meetings in the bathroom with a big ass picture of your face like, don't be like her. Well, the Bible says.
Well, actually, so it was me and then 3 other girls, and that was it.
As a part of the same congregation,
same religion, not the same, because all 4 of us was in different congregations.
Okay.
So, but me and the one girl, we got close enough to the point where when it was almost time for me to graduate high school, our parents were talking to each other, and then my mom did like this whole comparison thing. Well, so and so got a scholarship. How come you didn't get one? Or so and so, and I already didn't care. Like, I liked her enough to be her friend, but I didn't care for her simply because her family had a higher status than mine.
Okay.
So her family went to the headquarters, like the Jehovah's Witness headquarters, which was called Bethel. So when they got done with school and they went off to Bethel, which is kind of like missionary, but it's like you do. But
sorry,
you're terrible.
Sorry.
But yeah, so that's kind of like the ranking. That's like one of the highest rankings you can have within Jehovah's Witness. And if you talk to an active Jehovah's Witness, they're like, "Oh, there's no rankings or whatever." No, it is, because I
don't think we're supposed to know that.
Well, you're gonna know it. You're gonna know it now. You're gonna know it now. So
next week on the Dubtail podcast, I'm doing it by myself. Where's Ruby Crab? We don't know.
Terrible. But yeah, so the family very much had an air about them. Like
Pompous.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so their families, they went to Bethel. The dad was an elder, the mom was a pioneer. The sister was on her way to do like travel to do the missionary work. The little brother got baptized when he was like 8 years old, and all of these things. So let me say the brother got baptized at 8 years old, right?
Right.
Because most churches they baptize babies.
Right. Right.
So one thing Jehovah's
Or
Witnesses,
born again sinners.
right? So one thing
Born
Jehovah's
again
Witnesses always prided themselves on was, no, you make that choice when you're older.
Okay.
So, but if a kid is like, hey, I want to get baptized, they're not going to stop that kid.
Mm.
So, and basically that's what happened with me. So I wasn't a kid, I was a teenager.
Right.
You know, just trying to, because, and plus I was feeling the pressure from everybody. Oh, when are you going to get baptized? You gave such a good talk. You gave such a good comment. Da, 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 da. So I gave into the pressure of it. And, you know, I'm like, I knew a long time ago that I didn't want to do that. So I'm kind of like, why did I do it?
I think that's a common conversation amongst, teenagers and with like strict religious households. Like they always, because I got a lot of friends some friends were Jehovah's Witness, but I didn't really know the ins and outs of, what that religion was about. Mostly Christians, Baptists, whatever, Presbyterian or whatever, all of that different stuff.
Protestant?
No. It was like Presbyterian. I don't know. Something, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not a very religious person myself. Nonetheless, but between being Muslim, and I'm not Muslim, but my friends that were Muslim and friends that were Jehovah's Witnesses, those were like those private talks of which it was like, I don't know if I'm going to follow this as I get older. And some people really didn't like the religion standard, but they know a lot of stuff about the religion,
Right.
of course, because they grew up in it.
Right.
And then some people say they didn't like it, but they saw the benefit. Like a lot of my Muslim friends, they didn't care for my strict Muslim friends. They didn't care for, praying 5 times a day and,
Right.
masjid and Juma and everything like that. But they respected the discipline that went into it, especially when it came around like Ramadan.
Oh,
and
yeah.
things like that. Like that.
Absolutely.
As a kid, it's like, wow, you're not gonna eat. I ate before sunrise.
Right.
And
right.
it's just like, wow. That was a whole flip for that house. You know what I mean? Like for those houses, like they really ate before, and
that was for a month.
For a month, yeah.
It's for a month.
But they said, it was the spiritual benefit that did it. Because I think, what is it, Lent? It's kind of the same. Well, you don't fast, but what you do is
some
you give
do
up.
fast for Lent.
Some people do. Okay.
Some people do.
Because I know some people, they just give up something.
Right.
But meat,
it's
whatever.
But it's still considered a fast from whatever
your normal.
Your normal.
Okay, but that's always been like a topic of conversation. So I kind of want to know, like, at what point did you? I mean, because you said you already knew that you didn't want to continue practicing being a Jehovah's Witness, but at what point was it? What were some of the things that you saw? Some of the things that you witnessed that really solidified the fact that you did not want to be a part of this thing anymore?
So here's the thing. I knew from jump when my parents first started going, because my mom wasn't always Jehovah's Witness. My mom had me as a teenager. Okay. So my parents got married around the time I was like 4 or 5. So I was 4. And my dad looked at me and he was like, all right, it's time to go to the hall. And I'm like, I don't want to go to the hall. I'm 4.
The hallway? Well, for what? What did I do?
No. I know
what you mean.
I knew what it was. And I'm like, I don't want to go. So my dad was like, if you don't go to the hall, you're going to die. And I looked at him and I paused and I'm like, we're all going to die.
I just want to put this in perspective too. 4 or 5 years old.
4 or 5 years old. I'm like,
we're all going to die.
We're all going to die.
Never have I ever thought that at 4 or 5. Like,
Like, that was my logic. My logic was like, we're all going to die. So he paused.
At 4 or 5, I just want to say this. At 4 or 5 years old, the only way you could die is if you got killed like RoboCop. That's the only way you could die. You had to die a terrible, terrible death.
But you also
got to live forever.
You also got to remember,
at that age.
You also got to remember, I was already going to the hall with my parents. It wasn't my first time going to the hall. And there's no separate school for kids. So you get the fire and brimstone with everybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know how you go to church and you talk about hell and death and all of that. So, but there's no separation for the kids. There's no Sunday school. And this was like probably a Tuesday night or a Thursday night. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I want to play with my toys and go to bed. I'm 4.
Right.
So my dad paused and he was like, well, if you don't go, you can't be friends with so-and-so. And I'm like, that's the only friend you allow me to have at the house. That's the only person that comes over to play with me.
It just sounds like a negotiating,
right?
Like you're being interrogated. Your deposition this is your deposition. Like, all right, so
I was like, all right, I'll go along with it, whatever. So I started, so my parents, they got more serious. They eventually got baptized into the religion. I have other kids my age to play with, and those became my friends. So when it came time for me to go to school, and I wanted to hang with those friends, and like, they not Jehovah's Witnesses. You can't do that.
And that was actually said. It wasn't no sly. It was just like that, straight like that.
Yeah, pretty much for the most part. Because, and not only that, I got so used to it that I actually stopped asking. And I stopped asking for that, and I stopped asking for a lot of things. So now, if I talk to my parents now, I'm like, oh, they asked me to play basketball. And I was like, well, why didn't you say something? I'm like, because you said bad association spoils useful habits.
Right.
You barely let me play in the band. So.
And just being not a Jehovah's Witness, a non-Jehovah's Witness, it's you see somebody in school, right? And we didn't think like that in my family. It was just like, you just go to school. You get the, it's not a fashion show. It's not a popularity contest. You're there to learn.
No.
You get stuff like that, but you guys got extra.
Yeah.
But, and coming up in the religion all throughout your school life, that had to have some kind of like strain on your social life.
Well, yeah,
to this
absolutely.
Day almost,
absolutely. Because imagine going to school, you have a birthday party, and guess what? I can't be in the room. I have to go to somebody else's classroom because you're having a birthday party in the classroom.
Wow. I remember some kids like that too. Wow.
I had to go to a different classroom.
Bro,
or
cupcakes used to be rocking, little juices, cupcakes. Everybody got a little bag, you know. Oh my
all
God.
of that. I couldn't be in the same classroom.
I'm sorry.
You were terrible.
I'm sorry, because it's like, you come back in the class, everybody all full. They got their little bag and shit. And you just sitting there looking just beat and salty. And then your parents...
Or you have
how was school today? Fuck you.
Right. Or you have the class Christmas party.
Yeah. Oh my God,
all of that. So you come back from Christmas break. Oh, what'd you get? So here's the thing though.
Well, I know a lot of Muslim parents who, they would let you get a gift. But it's like family or whatever. Like because everybody in your family, for the kids that I grew up with that practice strong religion like that, the whole family isn't like that. So it's like, if they really mess with you as a kid, hey, this is for him. Call it what you want, but I bought it for him or her. Yeah. Right.
So that was my saving grace. My saving grace and my loophole was my grandmother, because my grandmother wasn't having none of that shit. She was like, this is your Christmas present. But my mom.
And it bet not be in the garbage next time I come.
Well, so here's the thing. So my grandmother, when she would give it to me, she'd be like, this is your Christmas present. But my mom laid down a law. She was like, she cannot get it on Christmas. I have to either get it before Christmas or I have to wait till after Christmas to get it, which was fine. But I could not get it on Christmas Day because that's what made it Christmas.
But you definitely got it during the break. So
I definitely got it during the break. So when I came back, I came to school. Oh, what'd you get for Christmas? I got a Polaroid camera. I got the Tamagotchi. I got the Girl Talk.
Tamagotchi. Oh, wow.
So that was my loophole. My grandmother was literally my loophole to allow me to fit into school.
But you know, and that's important, right? Because, and I get it. Like, I understand. It's public school, right? Public and private school. It's bad seeds everywhere. You're not gonna.
I went to both, and I still didn't. I wasn't allowed to have friends over from either one.
This is what I'm saying. So it's like that's I think that those are one of the things. Those are one of the old school rules that need to be broken up, because this is what happened during the pandemic with kids not being able to go to school and sit amongst other kids. They lost those years of being able to socialize.
Right. So the thing is, I didn't lose out on socialization because there were other kids my age at the Kingdom Hall.
Right.
And we did get together. We did things often. Like, we would go skating at Branchbrook Park every Saturday. We would we would go bowling.
I was a skate 22 kid.
Not I, said the Ruby. So, but we would go down to Branchbrook Park, or we would like get together and watch basketball games, or we would have picnics at what's that, Conan Park?
Okay, yeah.
We would have picnics over there. They would we would go to weddings where we would have gatherings, like, and have dances and stuff, but it would be just Jehovah's Witnesses.
Right.
So, I mean, so I did get the socialization. I just didn't get the socialization I wanted. So,
I mean, it was very manufactured. Like,
right. It was very manufactured.
You can do all of that as long as everybody's doing it. That's down with the clique, if you will.
Pretty much. Or not necessarily everybody, but like, for example, there were, it was the people that were our age, and then you had the teenagers, and the teenagers. So like the whole group of kids would go and do stuff. Mm-hmm. Or by the time I was a teenager, we would take the younger kids. Like, we would take like my little brother, who was like 5 years younger than me, and their friends. So we would all go skating, or we would go hiking or camping or whatever. So, and I mean, so I did have the socialization. It's just, when I wanted to hang out with other people that weren't necessarily Jehovah's Witness, that's when it became a problem. So eventually like I said, I learned to stop asking for it, but, it was definitely a sore spot for me, because I'm like, how can you just deem somebody bad simply because of their religion? You know what I mean? Like, some of the coolest people I know, I wasn't allowed to hang out with them. So it was really a sore spot.
So let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you would, the fact that, they deem people bad simply due to religious, what's the best word I'm looking
differences?
for here? Religious differences or religious associations. Is that why you would kind of call the Jehovah's Witness religion like a cult?
That's
ordeal?
That's one of many.
One of many.
Okay. One of the other factors was, so growing up, I don't know how true it is now, because I've been out of there for about 20 years now. But
not to sound weird or funny or anything, but that's being disfellowshipped.
Right.
And can you give us the definition of being disfellowshipped? So
being disfellowshipped is the same as being excommunicated. So basically, you are kicked out. Your membership exiled. Your membership to the church or the organization is revoked. However, with Jehovah's Witnesses, anybody that knows that you were a Jehovah's Witness and that you have been disfellowshipped, they can no longer associate with you. They cannot talk to you, or they can't really be seen with you in public or anything like that. So,
like, what happens?
like they just act like you don't exist.
No, I'm saying, like, if you're caught. It's like anybody caught talking to Charlie Murphy get kicked out of this party, like,
right?
So, but like, do you like turn to stone or something? Like, what happens? Like,
so if you do something that is against their their morals or their rules, you're kicked out. So, for example, with me, I got pregnant and I wasn't married, so I got kicked out. I had sex before marriage. Now, anybody seen talking to me, maybe the first time they might get spoken to. But if it's like an ongoing thing and they are baptized within an organization, then they're considered marked. So marked is very close to being disfellowshipped. Like they still have all their privileges.
Like you're a marked man, though.
Right. You're marked. So that means everybody in the congregation has to limit their association with you because you chose to hang out with a disfellowship person. So, I mean, it's so many levels. Like,
is anybody else thinking what I'm thinking?
What?
No, go ahead.
So, yeah, so years ago, I was actually in the mall. I saw this woman that used to babysit me and my brother.
Mm.
And she knew that I was Jehovah's Witness. I mean, she knew that I was disfellowshipped.
Mm-hmm.
So when she saw me in the middle of the mall, like she just looked at me and walked right past like I didn't exist. Mind you, prior to that, I hadn't seen her in years because she had moved like, I want to say to like Massachusetts with her husband or whatever. And I guess she came back to Jersey. And I was like, oh, snap. There goes that, there she goes. And I smiled at her and she just, like I didn't exist. And that's hurtful because
I was about to say, like, how did that make you feel?
It was so hurtful. It hurt all of my feelings because I'm like, yo, you used to babysit me.
Right. Like, because I've heard stories about people who, maybe came up in the ranks of like being Jehovah's Witnesses and things like that. Then one person gets disfellowshipped and it like ends 15, 20-year friendships or whatever.
Absolutely.
The case is. And it's just
Absolutely.
Like, wow, but why? Like,
so the girl that I mentioned before,
there has to be something in the Bible about this.
So here's the thing. So Jehovah's Witnesses, their disfellowshipping rule goes by a letter that was written to the congregation of Corinth. Okay, they asked, I forget if it was Peter or whoever, but they said, hey, what do we do about this person? Peter said, basically shun them. And then I want to say either in 2 Corinthians, which is the second letter to the congregation of Corinth, or it might be the next Bible book, which is Acts. One of those, Peter wrote, the congregation wrote back and said, hey, this is how it's affecting people. So Peter writes back and says, okay, don't do that no more. But they only follow that first letter.
So there's a whole nother part that says don't do it no more.
Right.
But they're just like, nah. We gonna
right.
keep shit going like
and
this.
By the way,
welcome to death row. Nigga.
Right. And by the way, all in the New Testament. These letters are all in the New Testament. So it's not like one is in the Old Testament and we don't go, because people make a lot of points like, oh, the Old Testament says don't wear mixed fabrics and you're wearing polyester. Like that's an argument a lot of people have when they say, oh, if you want to follow the Bible, follow all of it, but this was all New Testament.
According to the Old Testament, you're like not even supposed to use the bathroom or something. It's like one of those really crazy medieval kind of.
No, you're supposed to like bury it a certain way,
like a dog,
right? Or basically, like regular rules, like when you go camping. Like if you go camping outside, you're supposed to dig a hole and then you're supposed to cover it up, and it's supposed to be a certain amount of feet away from camp for the sake of cleanliness.
Right.
I believe that's that was also in the Bible too.
Okay.
So and those rules still apply to camp if you're camping outside.
I would assume like, and that's different. Like go figure Old Testament. I probably didn't have a lot of plumbing. Like,
right. Exactly the point.
Go figure.
So some people still adhere to that going camping because that's what makes sense. But I forgot the point that I was making. But anyway, the fact that this woman said nothing to me, it was very hurtful. I'm like, you watched me, and like her family was the reason why, I can understand some of what a Jamaican says when they speak patois. So I'm like, I learned so much from them outside of, the Jehovah's Witness thing.
It's like by human nature, it's natural to be nice to somebody, and you get something like this and babysit. She babysat you.
Right.
An adult babysat you, sees you as a kid, recognizes you, and because of this rule,
yep,
it's just like
walks right past.
So quick to just cut you off like that, and it's like
I no longer exist.
Right. And that's insane.
Yeah.
And people do it and say like it's cool, but it's really not.
It's absolutely not.
It's not.
And the girl that I had mentioned earlier that my dad was like, oh, you can't be friends with her if you don't go to the hall. Mm-hmm. We were friends since we're only 2 years apart. So I was 4 and she was 2. Okay. So when I got this fellowship at 18, I never saw her again.
Wow. Sounds like a horror movie.
Right. And so, and the reason why it hurts so much is because when you're part of the Jehovah's Witness organization, like I said, that whole friendship thing, all of your friends are Jehovah's Witnesses. Mm-hmm. So once you fuck up,
you fuck up for good. You're
cut off. And now when you're outside in the world, you don't have anybody out there. And now...
Well, it's not that you don't have anybody. They just make it seem like everything around you is bad.
Right. They make it seem like everything around you is bad, but also you're so isolated, you can't turn to anyone for outside help, or you basically have to rebuild from scratch. You know what I mean? So like I said, my grandmother was my saving grace.
Right.
She was my saving grace. She was my loophole. And I've had a couple of other friends along the way that are very much my loophole. The woman that I call my sister, she's been there for me thick and thin no matter what, And even though her parents were Jehovah's Witness, like I said, everybody's different. Nobody's as strict as the next family or some. Mm-hmm. So when it happened to me, her mom was like, I've seen what this does to people. Don't you stop being her friend. We have been friends 22 years now, So, and that meant the world to me. That was literally my saving grace. That's probably the reason why I'm alive today is because of that friendship.
Right.
That has been maintained these past 20 some odd years. Like, she's my daughter's godmother, I'm basically like auntie to her kid, all of the things. And it's just so important to have something or someone.
You got to believe in something.
Right. So
even if that something don't believe in you anymore, like, you know what I mean?
Right. And the other part of it is, what's so damaging about it is, within that organization, you're made to feel like you don't have religion, you're a bad person. That's something I struggled with for years. Like I said, I've been out of the religion in almost 20 years.
Right.
I've only recently felt like I came to terms with it maybe 15 years ago. But I really couldn't stand on it until maybe about 7 years ago, when I really felt comfortable, not going by anybody's religion. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So, it has a toll on you. It has a long lasting effect on the psyche, on your emotions, how you walk through life and everything. Up until maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was still having dreams about going to the Kingdom Hall.
So that's like the flip side of religion, like the dark side of religion.
Right.
It's so ingrained in you because you grew up in it, and you made a decision on your own.
Right.
Right. You made a decision on your own that nobody supported, but you wanted to do something that you wanted to do.
Right.
And because of that,
well, it wasn't even necessarily something I was. Yes, I wanted to do it, but I needed something drastic to help me pull that trigger. You get what I'm saying? To help me get out of it, because I knew I didn't want to be a part of it.
It was kind of like a plot to get out of it, but it was still something that you wanted to do.
Right, but I didn't plan on getting pregnant.
Okay, got you.
I didn't plan on getting pregnant. I wanted to go and live my life. That's ultimately what I wanted. But the pregnancy is what got me caught.
Right.
So now we're like, all right, now you gotta get out. And if you want to come back, you gotta jump through all these hoops to come back.
Walk us through that, because I have a buddy.
Through which part?
Walk me through the process of getting back, the road back to Jehovah.
So the road getting back.
Have you ever tried, or is it just like
absolutely the fuck not?
But you just know what it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I've seen other people go through it. So first, what you have to do is, whatever your local congregation is, you have to write a letter. You have to write a letter saying, "Hey, I want to come back. XYZ, ABC, whatever." And you, I guess, will get a call from the elders. So they'll either call you or they'll come to your home, ask you whatever questions and whatever. And they're like, all right. So what you have to do now is you have to start coming back to the meetings, and you have to prepare for them. So mind you, I think it's only two meetings a week now, but back then it was 3 meetings. So you would have to prepare for 3 meetings, and you would have to have a Bible study. So somebody from the Kingdom Hall is going to have to study with you as if you were never a Jehovah's Witness before.
So these are 4 things that you have to do indefinitely. Don't miss a day.
Pretty much. And then once you come back to the Kingdom Hall, you start working your way back into getting your privileges. So one of your privileges is making a comment. So basically,
making a comment,
which is audience participation. You know how
raise your hand to speak.
Yep. You raise your hand to speak and give a comment on whatever material is being studied. So then you ease your way into that. And then eventually you get your privileges back. So the other privilege is to give a talk. So with you being a man, you would, prepare whatever your topic is with your Bible points and whatever, and you would stand in front of the podium and you would speak to the audience. Me as a woman, I would be given a partner, and I would do a demonstration of a Bible study, and that would be the talk. The other thing is your last privilege is going back out in field service, which is knocking on doors, which is what you see Jehovah's Witness doing all the time, and then y'all go run and hide.
No, I put a no soliciting sign on my door.
And
I don't care what you're selling. I don't want it.
Well, here's the thing.
It's not soliciting.
The first argument a Jehovah's Witness will say is, we're not selling anything. So you may have your no soliciting sign, but they're still going to knock on your door because they're not selling anything.
They don't anymore.
Okay.
I swear.
I mean,
everybody pull up. They hop out the big Cadillac truck and they suits and everything, and they split up. I be like, yo, that is dead serious.
Oh yeah.
And if you're standing out there, they will talk your ear off. And it's just like, even if you say like, no, thank you, because I'm a nice guy. No, thank you, I'm not interested. Oh, can I leave you some literature?
No.
Fine.
No, thank you.
And as soon as you take it, they're coming back the next week. Did you get a chance to look at the literature we get?
No, it went straight to the round file. Round file, what's that? The garbage.
Round file.
The round file.
But it was crazy, and they would do it, and in my very specific situation, I can't have that.
Right.
I can't have nobody, because I can't have nobody taking advantage of the people in my house.
Right. Correct.
Ever. So it's a couple of those religious groups that come by the house, and it's very easy to just give up information.
Yep.
The last thing I want to do is come inside and there's somebody sitting in my living room, and it's just like, bro, you sweet Jesus on the cross. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
like,
right.
I don't mean no disrespect, but get the fuck out.
Right. Exactly.
But it stopped once I put the no soliciting sign.
Okay.
Because on the low, it basically means like, I don't really want to be bothered. It's
right.
I don't need you trying to trick nobody.
Right.
And it probably helps that I put the little upside down cross on the bottom of it too. But,
oh, okay. There it is. There it is.
I didn't do that. I don't want any bad spirits coming to my door. I just don't want them to come. I don't want nobody really coming to my house and like bothering the peace. But, I don't especially want spirits, opening my cabinets at night being a goddamn nuisance. You know what I'm saying? Come downstairs.
Just paint the porch blue.
Come downstairs. My porch is blue. Porch is blue. Come downstairs. All the chairs are sitting on top of each other. God damn. This ghost is even scary. It's just a goddamn annoyance.
Right.
But nah, so you said first argument is that they're not selling anything.
Right.
So if they're not selling anything, what do they call it then?
They're just calling it preaching. That's they call it field service. It's just preaching.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm thinking field service like technician coming to your house, fix something.
no.
I get you.
Field service equals knocking on doors or however it is that a Jehovah's Witness can make their time. So
So basically, I like to call that disturbing the peace.
So when they make their time, you have your unbaptized publishers, you have your baptized publishers, you have your pioneers.
There are levels to this shit.
There are levels to the preaching. So unbaptized publishers and regular publishers, they don't have a minimum time to submit. But the pioneers, and then you also have the auxiliary pioneers. So the auxiliary pioneers, they only pioneer for like maybe a month here, a month there.
Really quick, while it's on my mind, what are the benefits of being a pioneer?
The benefits?
Like what I get
the
religion.
You're just looked up to. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. It's no different than being the pastor's wife. You got the pastor and the pastor's wife. That's it. So most of your pioneers were women, and most of their husbands were elders or ministerial servants.
So it's like deacon and deaconess.
Right. It's just a hierarchy for y'all to just be like, oh well, when are you gonna do this? When are you gonna do that?
Like you put this kind of stuff on like community service kind of ordeals, like your resume, you go for a job, they actually serve, because some jobs are actually like, oh yeah, so what do you do in your off time? Like, oh well, I do this, and it's like, oh okay, cool. It's kind of like cold, like,
and some people
gotcha.
Some people do use their field service as their community service for their resumes. Yeah. They do,
so it's like I'm starting to see a little bit more, because I mean I think all religion, when you're really really deep into it, they all have some sort of I don't know, they all have some sort of
hierarchy.
They all have a hierarchy. I'm assuming. But what I'm saying is, it's like they all have a department in which they do these things. I don't see it much with like Baptists, and I'm gonna use Baptists as the example because my grandparents were Baptists, and my grandfather was a deacon. My grandmother's a deaconess, which is it's another story.
Yeah.
But I know my grandfather, he used to go visit the sick.
Right.
The sick and the shut in. I think, and then,
right.
I'm not knocking that.
And that's what our elders and our ministerial servants did.
Oh, so they just got different. It's same stuff,
it's the
just
same,
different.
Right.
Got you. Okay.
Same shit, different toilet.
Got you. Because I was, my grandfather, and they went to funerals like picnics. It was like, oh my God, they bring back all this food. And they got real deep. They brought back clothes and it's just like, they just did so much stuff. And I'm just like, it's insane because they really, and I guess like my grandfather, he stopped working a very, very long time ago. Like he was sick himself, so maybe it's one of those things where he felt, I mean, that's another story too. I actually recorded that situation before he passed. So maybe he really did feel like he owed something to his religion.
Oh yeah.
And they, they came and saw him and, everything like that. So maybe he was really just returning the favor. But I know when he was, and I mean, this is like the 80s, right? When he got really, really sick and stuff.
Right.
But as long as I've known him, he's just been regular guy. He doesn't, older folks from like that generation, my grandfather was like 70 something years old, probably like close to 80. So it was like all my life, it'd be like, talk about regular stuff and this, that, and the third, boom, boom, wop, wop. But he'll always slip in like, well, if you went to church, you do better, or something like that. So it was like a slight, nothing compared to like what you're explaining,
right.
But it was always like a slight. And I think that's what like most religions do. Like they throw that slight at you to try to get you in there.
Yeah, try to guilt you in there, and I'm just like,
yeah,
no. So, but yeah, so I mean, you can find a lot of crossover between Jehovah's Witness and other religions. But what makes it what makes it such a cult is the isolation. And actually, if you look into it, there is a model out there for you to identify a cult. It's called a BITE model. So, and it's an acronym for how religion controls your life. So the B is for behavior. So how you behave. So Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't curse.
No.
You know, they don't, you're not going to find them out doing certain dances. You're not going to find them outside twerking or anything like that. You're not going to find a Jehovah's Witness that smokes or.
Really?
Yeah. So you're, you know, or have a bunch of piercings or whatever the case is, or have short dresses or tight pants. Actually, one of the members of the governing body, which is like the highest of the high, he has this whole thing against tight pants. And you know, other people who other podcasters who really dive deep into like the different religious sects, they kind of poke fun at him. He's like, he has an obsession with tight pants and we don't know why. So you have behavior, and then the second one is information. So
how much you know about it?
So the information portion is more so not how much you know about the religion, but the control of the information that the congregation or the organization receives. Okay. So like, for example, back in the 90s and prior to, I don't know what it is now, but higher education is frowned upon. They encourage they encourage the organization to just do what the state requires. You go to school from K through 12. You pick up a trade, and that's it. There's no college.
But it's all of that is just kind of just come. Trade school is acceptable though.
Trade school is acceptable, but for you to go to college and you take a psychology class or you take a philosophy class, all of that is going to teach you how to think for yourself. So that's controlling
and judge people.
So that is one of the ways that they control the information. The other way they control the information is by your association, which is why you can only do things within the scope of the Jehovah's Witness organization, because now you're going to get your information from other people, you know. Or when social media came out, Facebook and all of that, I remember they were like, "Oh no, we don't want y'all on social media and everything else." So that was another way of controlling the information. And even now, so at what point
is the social media thing still kind of like a no-no? Because quite frankly, everybody uses social media, and every religion has an app.
And they do have an app. Jehovah's Witnesses have an app. It's
and
called
a website.
And a website. So they have jw.org.
Right.
And I don't know what their rules are for social media, but I'm pretty sure that they have to apply the same rules as they would in the physical world. So your friends list on Facebook,
easy way to monitor it,
has to be all Jehovah's Witnesses. So
if you saw if you were still practicing, we probably wouldn't have this podcast.
No, we absolutely would not.
But in the slightest reason that I've run amok on you, and you thought I was, and we were doing this podcast, and we were friends on social media, and I slide into your not the DMs, but I slide into your friends list, I would pretty much be a marked man, but not in the way of Jehovah. More like, who is this? Is he a witness? And you will get pressed for it.
Right. Exactly.
Amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
I'm trying to. I can't remember. I can never remember what the T was. I want to say it was thought, and then the E was emotion. So
emotional damage.
Right. And it is emotional damage because you have to control your emotions. But yeah. Let me see.
Very interesting stuff.
Oh, information. Yeah. Behavior, information, thought, and behavior.
Thought. So break down the thought process, I guess.
The thought process, basically make sure your thinking is always in line with the organization.
And just for the record, everybody, she just looked it up. She put the phone down, and all of this is running straight from memory. Like everything she's been talking about, She's been making direct eye contact with me and giving me all of this information. This stuff is burned into her head. So, this ain't fluff. Ain't no research really involved. You see, I'm kind of quiet. I'm making jokes and stuff here and there because I'm learning way more than what I knew about it from before. Right. So she's really in the bag here.
Right.
You know.
So, but yeah, so and all of that is and then, you know, you have to control your emotions. So basically, they have what is it? A persecution complex. So they're like, they feel like, okay, well, we don't believe in the LGBTQ. So they actually have like videos of like how to control your emotions if somebody attacks you for declining a rainbow bracelet, or real video, by the way, real video.
I'm lost.
So they have these skits that show you how to conduct yourself if you're in a certain situation.
Okay. I believe that.
Okay. So one of them is, because like I said, it's a persecution complex, or they want somebody to feed that persecution narrative. So that whole emotional thing is showing you how to conduct yourself if somebody was like, oh, you're homophobic, you're this, you're that. And the Jehovah's Witness is just like, well, the Bible teaches us, da, 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 da. Instead of you getting angry and arguing back, you have to conduct yourself a certain way, and you have to do emotional work in order to maintain your cool, because if once you lose your cool, you're just as bad as all these worldly people. And worldly in the term of you're not part of the organization. Anybody not part of the organization, you're considered worldly. So
are there any UFC Jehovah's Witnesses? Like, because
no. However, Serena Williams just returned to the Jehovah's Witness organization. She did her thing, and then once she retired as a tennis player, she went back to the organization.
It's weird because, I mean, now we're talking entertainment. I mean, she's an athlete. She's an athlete.
She's an athlete.
That might be a little bit different, but I remember listening to, and I don't even know how true this guy is a real bully, but and I love him. I love 50 Cent to death. But he was talking about Ja Rule and how he was a Jehovah's Witness coming up. Like, he literally says,
I mean, that's not far fetched, because Biggie's mom was Jehovah's Witness too.
Well, okay.
Biggie's mom was Jehovah's Witness. The Jacksons, they were raised Jehovah's Witness.
I heard that, yeah.
And actually, their youngest sister, Rebe, she is still part of the organization. Like, she had one song, but she was the only one that remained part of the Jehovah's Witness.
I mean, but after a while, it's kind of like,
like, they do have celebrities. Like, I want to say George Benson. I actually saw George Benson at
You just scored cool points with me.
I actually saw him when they were doing the medical directive. So Jehovah's Witnesses, they cannot take blood in a medical emergency. And they have like these functions to bring awareness to the hospitals. So the hospitals will work with the organization. When somebody...
They can only get the blood from a Jehovah's Witness?
No, like for example, back in 2010, I was in a situation where I was internally bleeding. I lost more than half my blood. So I needed blood in order to live. Now, if I were a Jehovah's Witness, I wouldn't be allowed to take that blood. I would have died in 2010.
So
they have a no blood rule. They cannot take blood. Now they can take blood parts, but back then it was no blood at all. So nowadays it's no whole blood. You could take platelets, you could have hemoglobin, but you can't take whole blood. It's something.
Make it sound like it's milk.
Right. Like, basically.
We don't drink whole milk, just skim or 2%.
Right.
Like that's okay. Well, these are the things that I didn't know, and that I think are kind of like wow points, because this is a life or death situation, right? According to you, like with your situation.
Yeah,
right?
my situation was very much life or death. And if I were still a Jehovah's Witness, I would be dead right now.
That's insane. And I guess they suppose whatever happened to you would be your fault because you did something outside of the line of Jehovah. I don't know.
No, not necessarily. But what they do is they kind of use you as a martyr if you die for remaining true to the religion in that fashion. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If you keep up with the rules and you still die or whatever the case is, they kind of make you like a person to be celebrated. I remember as a kid, like going to like conventions or whatever, and it would be kids, like little kids in situations where they needed blood, and the parents didn't know what to do, and the kid would be like, "It's okay, Jehovah said that I can't take this blood, and he's going to be proud of me if I don't take this blood," type of, and they would list these kids as examples of like these people, stood fast with the religion and da 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 da. And I'm like, bro, that is bullshit. Like,
yo, man,
like your 5-year-old could still be alive, but you chose not to give them blood.
That's a deep point. And we definitely got to hit a part 2 to this because we have hit our mark right now, unfortunately. And I want to thank you for sharing as much information as you did.
You're welcome.
Because that's crazy. I don't even know what to say. Like, that's some pretty deep stuff. This music's too happy for this. But Ruby Craft, thank you so much. This is your boy Supreme Poobah Dub Tape Podcast, and we will see you next time. Peace.